A very good evening to one and all, for everyone who is tuning in just now and for handiness of those who have been with us from the start or earlier. The key theme of this MarTech Summit 2022 is rethinking the 4 Ps, a new marketing technology paradigm. We had a very knowledgeable and engaging first half of excellent Pathshalas, where 5 steps to customer experience nirvanas were discussed, where we learned how to rely on analytics to make data-driven marketing decisions and use analytics to our full potential. And also the pricing and marketing analytics, where how organizations are responding to customer buying behavior, all powered by analytics. Roundtable on conversational messaging imparted us how it can gear up customer engagement and help drive revenues and increase market share growth. A big thank you to all our sponsors, our platinum sponsor, NTT Data and Hansa Security, our gold sponsor, Gupshup, our silver sponsor, Advanced Auto Parts, and our associate sponsor, Fusion Hall. It's time to invite our next speaker. She is the president of NASSCOM since April 2018. A veteran of the technology industry, she is the 5th president of NASSCOM and the first woman at the helm in a 3-decade history. She's a firm believer in the power of technology in enhancing lives and livelihoods, leveraging it for societal good. She was instrumental in developing Think Digital, Think India strategy aimed at establishing India as a hub for digital talent and innovation. In the year 2020, she has been honored by Vogue as the Tech Leader of the Year 2020. She has also been listed among the India's most powerful women in tech by Business Today. So with all these beautiful credits, it's time to invite Ms. Debjani Ghosh to deliver the opening remarks for us. Over to you, ma'am.
Hey, thanks a ton, Pooja. And let me add my welcome to all of you to the NASSCOM MarTech 2022 Summit. We're thrilled you could join us. Tremendously important conversations to be had. I think this theme of building brand differentiation in the new normal is a tremendously interesting one. You know, during the last 2 years of the pandemic, if there is one thing that I am absolutely sure of, it is that we are not going back to the old normal. A lot of us have been talking about getting our lives back, going back to normal, etc. But during the last 2 years, you and I have been, in fact, writing a new future. And I think that is going to have some serious implications on how companies and marketers build out their brands and build out their relationships with their customers. In fact, I was reading a very, very interesting report from McKinsey on the same topic. And I wanted to share some of the key insights that I took away from the report. You know, the first one for me is that while data is tremendously important, it'll continue to stay important. I think the power of imagination is going to become as important, if not more important. We will have to think very hard and very differently about how consumers in the next normal are likely to behave. What are they thinking? How are they feeling about things? What are they saying? How are they prioritizing or reprioritizing their values? What are the core elements or criteria that will be shaping their decisions? I do believe that anyone who says this is, I know what the new normal looks like, frankly, doesn't have a clue. We have pretty much touched the tip of the iceberg, or frankly, what we have seen till now, in my opinion, is just the trailer. So we have to see how this plays out, and predicting the future is such a waste of time. We have to be really nimble and adapt very quickly to these changes so we are able to shape our strategies and continue to build relevance, not just for ourselves, but our consumers. So, going back to the McKinsey report, while they talked about 6 implications, I'm going to pick 4 that were extremely important for me. Um, the first one is catching up with the great digital migration. In the last 2 years, not only have all of us lived our lives digitally, but billions and millions of new users have joined the digital universe. And most of them were first time users. It was the first time they were using technology, first time they were living their lives by, with the use of technology, be it education, be it getting access to healthcare, etc., etc. And there's so many consumer sentiment surveys out there which shows that most of us are not going back to the old way. Most of us are going to continue to increase our share of online experiences, be it shopping, be it healthcare, etc., etc. And this is here to stay. And for marketers, this means rethinking how you connect with consumers. While analytics will continue to play a very, very core important role in tracking consumer preferences, understanding consumer behaviors at increasingly granular levels, which you have to, but also in enabling rapid response to the opportunities or threats, because we are playing the infinite game. I mean, there is no end goal post out there. And in an infinite game, as Simon Sinek so beautifully says, there are no winners or losers. The ones who get ahead are the ones who are really nimble and able to adapt and move ahead of competition. And how do we leverage technology? How do we leverage analytics and insights to be able to do that faster than competition is going to shape competitive advantage and, frankly, the value that marketing delivers to the companies. And also, with the number of new users that's coming in, just reimagining how we use technology. I mean, our technologies our solutions have to get tremendously intuitive as they weave into pretty much every aspect of human life. And yes, this means that marketing and IT cannot work in silos. Not only do they have to come together, I do believe that a successful marketing professional in the digital economy is one who has tremendously high digital fluency and, not just a high understanding of how technologies work, but is able to use some of these technologies to shape the narrative, shape how they tell the story, and of course, shape their competitive advantage. The second insight I wanted to share from the report was about localization of experiences. I do believe this is an absolutely critical one. The pandemic has pretty much reinforced the importance of communities, especially local communities. As we rewired our way of living, to start caring about each other, to start caring about our communities. It also impacts businesses. Companies also have to learn how to rewire their operating models to provide a much more granular presence at scale. And this approach will require building on the many capabilities that we have been developing over the years around personalization, particularly analytics, trigger-based messaging, agile test and learn approaches. And once again, it requires renewed thinking about how to scale content supply chains and manage their performance, manage their delivery. I thought this was an extremely important point, for companies to consider. Um, the third one is about, brand loyalty, you know, and the role of trust in brand loyalty. The one thing that we have seen, in the last 2 years is that, uh, loyalty has taken on a very new meaning. For example, a lot of the surveys, including the McKinsey research, showed that roughly around 20% of US consumers within the first year of the pandemic, switched brands, and almost half of them were very sure that they're not going to come back to their old choices. Trust is the most important currency of the digital economy. And it is increasingly becoming the key factor shaping consumer decisions. 55% of consumers reported turning to brands that they absolutely trusted during the lockdown. How do you build consumer trust? How do you use data, insights, analytics to not just, and technologies like cybersecurity, to build their trust around usage of data, around privacy concerns, because these can make or break up. And how do you turn it into a point of differentiation and even a source of competitive advantage? I think is something that every marketing person has to think through. And the last insight that I wanted to share was um, the one about purpose, holding brands to a higher standard. Again, the pandemic it's been a great teacher actually. And it has taught us the importance of doing the right thing. This growing culture of looking after each other, looking after society. We are in this together and we have to take care of each other. It is a mindset that has become tremendously strong. And it's a mindset that is also impacting our choices with respect to not just which brands do we want to buy, but who do we want to work for, who do we want to work with, etc. Around 61% of consumers claimed that how a brand responded during the crisis had a huge impact on whether they would continue to buy that brand's products or not. And I think this is something each of us have to think of. What is the story that our brands tell? What do we stand for? What is it that our brand stands for? And where are we making a real difference? I think this is the most important charter for all of us to get right. And it's not just about consumer loyalty. It's also about employee loyalty. I mean, today's generation of employees want to work for a company that shares their value systems, that stands for, that believes in things that they believe in. What is that greater purpose of your business? And I think that is an extremely important one, not just to figure out, but how do you tell that story? The storytelling becomes absolutely critical in this kind of an environment. Um, I think the biggest opportunity that the pandemic has provided us with is the opportunity to rethink the narrative for the next normal. And this is one opportunity we absolutely cannot afford to lose. How we build the new narrative, how effectively we tell that story will shape the future of your businesses, and it will shape the next era of leaders. And as marketeers, you are at the front end of this battle. You are the ones who are going to lead this change. I do hope that the conversations we have lined up for you in the conference will help you along in this journey. I don't think anyone has all the answers or anyone knows what the right answers are. But if together we can start asking the right questions, if we can start sharing our collective experiences, insights, and grow that collective knowledge pool, I do believe that we will take several steps forward in this journey that we are, frankly, all of us are in together. And we have absolute legends with us who will be sharing with us their perspective and their insights. In fact, the speaker right after, and the speaker who's going to kick off this conference, is none other than my role model, my favorite, and absolute legend, Philip Kotler. I would encourage all of you to participate fully, not just in listening to these conversations, but asking your questions, sharing your feedback, sharing your inputs. I think we have a tremendously important window of opportunity in front of us, not just in terms of how we as society collectively create the new normal, but what is the narrative that we as marketers set for this new normal. I think this is the biggest responsibility that we have ahead of us. So here's to creating a future. Here's to creating legendary brands and a narrative that will make us all proud when history looks back on this chapter. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this absolutely encouraging and enriching session. I'm sure we all have a lot of take backs from this entire session.